Good morning, City View Bible Church. Once again, my name is Franz, and me and my wife Teresa are members here of this church, and we've been coming here for almost a year now. And I get the awesome task of convincing you young men and women all throughout this room to willingly and voluntarily go to prison and preach the gospel. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, right. First impulse is no, I don't want to go. That's somebody else, right? But I'm gifted in convincing people to go to prison. It's what I do. It's what I love to do. And the reason why is because I was in prison. I'm a felon. I didn't get to vote this year. I can't own a gun. I can't even lease an apartment. You see, when 2005 rolled around, I was a drug addict and a drug dealer and many other things along with that. And I got arrested and spent 7 years in a federal correctional institution in Beaumont, Texas. I was released in 2012. And I can tell you it's not a good place to be. But I want to tell you about 2 days out of the thousands of days, literally thousands of days that I spent in prison. I would like to explain to you and talk to you about two of them. The first one, coincidentally enough, was actually my first day in prison. Have never been to prison before, and so what happened is they let me out into a courtyard or a compound, an open compound, where there were 2,000 inmates all roaming around because lunch had just been called. I walked into this sea of chaotic people, and I can tell you, I remember that feeling to this day. I was scared and nervous and anxious and fearful and alone and sad and angry and hurt. Have you ever seen a wet, cold chihuahua? He's shaking. That was me on the inside. I put on that bravado on the outside to be tough and cool and look like it wasn't fazing me, but on the inside, I was scared, alone, hurting. And then at that moment when I walked out onto that compound, I had never thought about this before, but it was at that moment where the weight and the significance of what I had done and the time that I was given came crashing down on me and oppressed me and pushed me to the ground to the point where I was like, I have no hope. I have no solution. I have no answer to what I'm going to have to do for these next 7 years. I was not in control of my life. I did not have the answer. I was scared and alone. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Almost every single inmate in prison feels just like that every day. And the reason I say that is because that is the exact condition of a man or a woman's heart that God requires to speak to them. That's why prison is so fruitful. That's why prison is an amazing place to go and bring the gospel, because there are so many men and women that are in that position in life that are willing to grab hold of something that says, I have hope for you. The second day I'd like to talk about was 3 years later. 2 men came to my church on a Saturday. They gave up their free time with their family, their golf time, their fishing time, their football time. I don't know what it was that they would have been doing, but they gave that up for me. And they came in and they threw me a lifeline because I was drowning. I needed something, anything. And they threw it to me and I grabbed hold of it. And when I grabbed hold of it, I realized there was hope. There was an answer. There was something that could relieve this inside of me, this pain. And there ain't a man on this planet that could have ripped my hands off of that lifeline called Jesus. There is no other name that can do that. Now, what I'm asking you to do is to give up one Saturday to go do that for someone else. You see, those two men, everywhere I go, every time I preach or teach or disciple or mentor anybody, those people that I pour my heart and soul out to, they are the fruit on those men's branch. Everything I do for Jesus from now on is because of them. In your handout right now, there's a form right here. I want you to get that out and hold it up for me. Hold it up high. All right, so the people that have just raised their hand, you have just signed up to go to prison. Congratulations. Don't ever be the first to volunteer. That's just a bad idea. Wait till you find out what's happening first, then. No, I'm just kidding. That would have been awesome. There were like 60 people raised their hand. This is Bill Glass Ministries. They've been doing this for 40 years. They're the ones that came in and spoke to me. I've seen them 3 times in prison, and I've been with them 7 times out of prison. And over the last 40 years, they've spoken to over 10,000 prisons, and not once has there ever been an incident with a volunteer that went in there. Because these young men and women that need to hear the gospel, they are hungry for hope. They are hungry for the truth. They are hungry for help, and you get to give it to them. You'll never find a more ripe mission field in this city than on this date. If you look at it, it says January 13th and 14th. The 14th is when we would go into prison. It's from like 7 till 3. The 13th is when we would go to a church somewhere here in Austin and be trained. It takes like an hour and a half. They explain the whole process. It's amazing. It costs $10 to change somebody's eternity. It takes 6 hours to give them the answer that they so desperately need. Think about it. There's somebody in that prison, in this city, that needs to hear your testimony because you were given something very precious, very unique, and very special. It is how God reached you. They need to hear it. So here's the cool thing. If you sign up and type in that you go to City View Bible Church, we will all get to go together. The men to the men's facility and the women to the women's facility. My wife goes every year, and she'll tell you the first time she went, she was nervous and scared. And then when on the drive home, she was praising God and said it's one of the greatest things she's ever experienced in her life. So it's not just me, an ex-convict that loves this ministry. My wife has never been in trouble. I tricked her into marrying me. It's true. She says it's amazing. She says it's one of the greatest things she could do. So give up your Saturday. There are a lot of men and women that are going to need it. I'll be right over here, and Spencer, one of our elders, will be over here at the end of the service to answer any questions. Sign up. It's $10, 6 hours for someone's eternity. Amen. Thank you.